When you were born again, there was a fight. Do you know that? There was a fight, not between God and the devil, but there was a fight between God and you. When you were born again, God came and fought with you. God came and wrestled with you, just like God came and fought with Jacob. Breakthrough is a fight. The real question is this: what fights are you fighting? That's the real question. What fights are you fighting? Here's the reality about fights. Not all fights have a prize. Not all fights have a prize. There are some fights that have a prize, and there are other fights that have a price. There are some fights that you win a prize, but there are other fights that you pay a price. There are some fights where you win a blessing. There are other fights that you win a burden. I want to show you Jacob's fight, okay? Not the one with God, because that happened one day. But I want to show you the fight of his life. The fight that he was keeping on fighting was the fight with his brother Esau, right? That was the fight he kept on fighting. But what was he fighting for? He was fighting for his brother's birthright, right? He was fighting for his brother's blessing. And check out what Esau says. Check this out. Where is my... Yeah. Esau said, his brother said, "No wonder his name is Jacob, for now he has cheated me twice. First he took my rights as the firstborn, and now he has stolen my blessing." Right? So Jacob was fighting for his brother's right, not for his right, but for his brother's birthright, and he was fighting for his brother's blessing. He was fighting for something that belonged to his brother. And because he was fighting for something that did not belong to him, he could not fight rightfully. He had to fight wrongfully. Jacob had to fake himself because he was fighting for what belonged to someone else. You will have to fake yourself if you fight for something that belongs to someone else. Even though Jacob got his brother's blessing, Jacob could never enjoy his brother's blessing. Never. Because the moment he got his brother's blessing, that very moment, he had to run away to a different country. The blessing that he fought for all his life by cheating, stealing, lying. He got his brother's blessing, but his brother's blessing became his burden. And we live in a world where we're constantly seeking someone else's blessing. Come on now. You see someone's car, you want the same car. You see someone's career, you want the same career. You see someone migrating to a different country, you also want to migrate to a different country. You see someone getting a different passport, you also want to get a different passport, right? What is a blessing for someone else will become a burden for you. And my question to your soul, my question to your heart is this: what's the use? What's the use of fighting for a blessing and winning a burden? What's the use of fighting that fight where your prize is a burden? What's the use of winning the whole world and losing your soul? What's the use? What's the use? Do you know Jacob had his own rights? Do you know Jacob had his own blessings? You don't know. Let me show you. Okay, check this out. This is before the fight. This is what God told Jacob's mother. Check this out. The Lord told her, "The sons in your womb will become two nations, and the older son will serve the younger son. Question. Who's the older son in the story? Esau. Esau like Esau. Esau. Who is the younger son? Jacob. So God's plan was that Esau would serve Jacob. God's plan. God's plan was that Jacob would be first and Esau would be last. God's plan. But then Esau was born first. Right? Esau came out first. Esau came into the world, say, first. So the world saw Esau. The world saw Esau and said, Esau is first and Jacob is last. But God said, Jacob is first and Esau is last. So question, who does the blessing really belong to? Right? And this is very important for you to know this because the world is looking at your performance. And according to God, the ones who come first are not the ones who are blessed. The ones who are blessed are not the ones who come first in school. The ones who are blessed are not the ones who come first in life. The ones who are blessed are the ones who God blesses. Look, the world is looking at your education and calling you last. It only can see your education, can't see beyond that, right? And the world is calling you last. But God is looking at your blessing and calling you first. The world is looking at your job, at your career, and calling you a failure. But God is looking at your blessing and calling you a success. Why? Because God said the work of your hand will be blessed. Whatever you put your hand to will be blessed. Again, Deuteronomy chapter 28. The world is only looking at your performance. God is only looking at your promises. God is only looking at your blessings. The question is, what are you looking at? What are you focused on? Because as long as you're focused on what the world is calling you, you will keep on fighting for someone else's blessing. They called him Jacob, right? Jacob means deceiver, grappler, grabber, land grabber, blessing grabber, liar, cheat, scoundrel. That is the meaning of the word Jacob. They called him Jacob, but God never called him Jacob. That was not his name. See, that's why God had to come and fight with Jacob. Then Jacob was left alone, and a man, capital M, God, came and wrestled with him. God came and wrestled with him until the breaking of the day. Jacob did not fight with God. God fought with Jacob. God fights with you. You think only you fight with God? You think only you complain? No, God fights with you. He fought with Jacob. But then it says that Jacob won, right? And all of you like, whoa, Jacob won. Oh my God, Jacob won. But the Bible doesn't say that God lost. So God also won because Jacob won. Because this was not that kind of fight where one wins, the other loses. God did not want to defeat Jacob. God did not want to destroy Jacob. Listen to me now. God wanted to break Jacob. Why? Say why? Because he wanted to give birth to Israel. Unless Jacob breaks, Israel cannot be born. Man. That's why in the middle of the fight, God said, what is your name? And he replied, Jacob, right? What is your name? Jacob. But his name was not Jacob. Jacob was the name that was given to him. Jacob was the name that the world had given him. And his biggest problem was that Jacob did not know his name. But we're not talking about Jacob. We're talking about you. What about you? Do you know your name? Do you know your name? Or do you only know the name that is given to you? Because listen now, the world gives you a name. Society will give you a name. And forget about all of that, but your situations will give you a name. Yeah, that's why sometimes you say, I am sick. Right? You get a cold, achoo, I am sick. But sick is not your name. Why are you introducing yourself as sick? That is not your name. Right? I am poor, but poor is not your name. I am depressed, but depressed is not your name. I am a failure, but failure is not your name. That is the name that your situation has given you. And your biggest problem is that you don't know your name. And let me also say this, since I'm fired up already. Sunil is not your name. It's not. Adi is not your name. It's the name that was given to you when you were born. But the problem is, you are not just born once, you are born again. There should be two names. There should be two people. Let me tell you what happened when you were born again, because you don't know. No. You're sitting there as if you don't know. You are so afraid because you don't know. Let me tell you what happened. When you were born again, there was a fight. Do you know that? There was a fight. Not between God and the devil, but there was a fight between God and you. When you were born again, God came and fought with you. God came and wrestled with you. Just like God came and fought with Jacob. Right? And just how God broke Jacob's hip, God also broke your hip. God broke your hip. God broke your hopelessness. God broke your failure. God broke your pain. God broke your past. God broke your shame. God broke your old person. God broke your sin nature. God broke your Jacob. God broke you. God broke you, Ash. God broke you, Shamida. God broke you, Sunil. God broke you, Adi. God broke you. God broke you. And then God gave birth in you a brand new person. And the new person has a brand new name. He gave you a new name. So you are not broke anymore. Now you are blessed. That is your new name. So when you look at yourself in the mirror, don't say, I am broke. That guy is dead. That girl is dead. That person is crucified. Broke is gone. Now you're blessed. Look at the mirror today when you go home and say, I am limitless, because that is who you really are. That's your real name. If you still don't believe me, some of you still don't believe me, look at your birth certificate. You have a birth certificate, right? When you were born, you got a birth certificate, yes? Otherwise, you're not a legitimate human being. You're an alien. But you have a birth certificate. Just like that, when you were born again, you got a birth certificate. It's called the Bible. That's your birth certificate. And in the Bible, in your birth certificate, there is a section called your birthright. Your birthright is mentioned in Deuteronomy chapter 28, verses 1 to 14. Verses 15 onwards don't apply to you. They apply to everyone else, but not you, because you are in Christ and you have only verses 1 to 14. Those are your blessings. That is your birth certificate. That is your birthright. That is the fight. That is the only fight you're going to win. You know why? Say why. Because blessings are yours. They're kept for you. Blessings are not kept for angels. They're kept for you. Blessings are not kept for the devil. They're kept for you. They are yours. They are your birthright. So fight for your right. Let me ask you a question, and I'll close with this. Who is healing for? For the devil? Is healing for angels? Who is healing for? Who is healing for? Then fight for your right. You have a right to be healed. Who is prosperity for? For you. So fight for your right. You don't have to pray for money. It is your right. Fight for your right. Who is success for? Who is favor for? For the devil? For you. So fight every day for your right. You have to be a magnet where you're attracting the favor of God, the favor of men wherever you go. Fight for your right.